I'm at work right now, so I might have to end this really quickly and with no warning whatsoever. So just know that, okay? Thank you. Anyway, I feel like often I was talking a little bit to some people who are red pillars, I guess you could call those red pill men or whatever they're called. And And the way I see it is that it's just like there's so many things that the red pill men claim, basically. And it always seems like to me they complain about the women, but at the same time, half the time, like they will complain about certain women that they are themselves, from my experience. Like, how do you go about saying that you are like you talk about, for one, sometimes I hear people talk about people who are like from relationships and they have a lot of baggage, for example, and they act like there's a lot of emotional trauma. They sometimes will talk about how women of these types are the types that men should stay away from. What confuses me in this whole situation is how come they say that, but at the same time, they don't seem to realize they are very much the same, at least in my experience. It always seems like it because they always talk about the poor choices that they've made in being in relationships that have caused them hurt. But for some reason, they always act like the women are wrong in those relationships, but still they're a prize. Still, they're something good, and something a woman would want. I just know from my personal perspective, I don't want men who are broken emotionally or, you know, have some kind of issue with their past relationships. I notice this often personally where you find people who are a bit on the, angry side of things. They have a lot of anger towards their past relationships. And it's like, do you think you just woke up that way? You just, you were born and you were just angry at women or angry at relationships with women. You couldn't trust women just because. No, you got that way because of something. You got that way because of a bad relationship. Now, I know you want to blame the woman, but this is what I mean about often about these types of relationships and these types of people with emotional baggage and being hurt and things of that nature. It's like, it's not the man's fault and it's not the woman's fault. It's their fault. It's their fault that they put themselves through that type of issue. It's their fault because they should have chosen better. And what made you not choose better is desperation. Desperation made you search for love in places you should have had no business looking for love. But of course, you're not going to pay attention to that. You want to focus on, what was so bad about that person. When in reality, once you break up from that person who was a bad person for you, wasn't a good relationship, was unhealthy, you are still stuck with you. You are still stuck with that broken person who chose that person in the first place that has made you hurt and have all that anger in the first place. So it's like, to me, as a person who has always been more of a mindset that does not really see that I need to be in a relationship or anything of that nature. For me, I've always, like I said in the past, I specifically talked to some people who were down that road, basically. They went through the hurt and the anger of bad relationships and choosing bad people because they were desperate for love. And the thing is, why were you so desperate? You weren't just walking around normal, desperate for a relationship, desperate for love. You were that way because there's a void inside you. And that's the whole thing. That's a main thing for me. When I interact with a man who has had that past relationships or past hurt or something, to me, it tells me that something's wrong with him, that he chose that for his life. He didn't make good decisions in his life. I don't want to be involved with this. So that's why, to me, with red pill men, they never really focus on themselves and what caused you to come down this road in the first place. And what caused you to come down this road was not women. Women didn't just magnetize you into being interested in the wrong woman so then she could just bring hell on your life and make you all hurt and angry at the past bad relationships you've been in. What made you do it was you. And you have to look inside you to realize what is wrong with you that you've chosen this for yourself. So much of the time, it seems like they often, like I said, complain about themselves. They complain about, you know, being with women who are just like them. And it's like, okay, I understand you're talking to men about why you don't want to be with women like that. But what about the women who are not like the women you're complaining about? They don't want to be with you either because you are already damaged goods. And I don't mean to say that in a mean way, but I mean a person who's put themselves in a bad relationship who has not fixed the problem in the first place has some emotional problems already. If you have emotional problems, why do I want to deal with your emotional problems? Like, why do I want to deal with a broken person who isn't figuring out what's wrong with them? There's no self improvement here. There's just blaming everybody else when you should just look within and try and figure out what you did wrong and how you can fix the situation. You can't fix other people, you can fix yourself. So that's a major thing that I don't understand with some of the movement. Now, that's not all. I have much more to say on it. Um, but that is just a major thing to me. It's like people, I guess, who make mistakes or make the wrong decision when it comes to these types of situations always assume everyone else does. And it's like, no, not everyone else does. Therefore, the people who do not fall into your, problems, they're not going to want to interact and be with a person who, hasn't learned from their mistakes. Also, on top of it, the whole thing with hypergamy, which is the title of this video, it's like many of the time, what I've seen is that they complain and say, well, they don't complain, but they say that women are naturally hypergamous, right? And they complain about that. And they try and say, like, women, you know, think, like, they basically imply the only women that they're interested in are hypergamous. Instead of realizing, that that's the case, they want to assume all women are that way just because the women you specifically want are hypergamous. And that's the thing. It's like, I've noticed this with men many of the time. And I'm not saying all men, of course, I'm just saying some men. They have this thing where they're wired to try and get the types that they need to wow with monetary gain, basically. That's not all men. Some men are sufficient and they are comfortable with themselves so that they feel like they have more to offer than just money, because anyone could get money. You know what I mean? Anyone can get success. So then how special are you really? You know what I mean? So to me, it's like, I think in those cases, they chase after those women because they feel like it makes them more special when they go after hypergamous women, because to them it means they're something. It means they're more successful. Notice that most of the time when people are talking about the people with a mindset that is more red pill, they talk about how they started off very unsuccessful, very undesirable in their own eyes. And I mean, if you are undesirable in your own eyes, then you are completely undesirable. No one can say you're desirable if you say you're undesirable yourself. I mean, this has to do with self esteem. No one can raise your self esteem. It's your self esteem. It's literally no one can make it higher. Anyway, so when they think that, you know, that makes their self esteem or their worth more, it is so basically precarious because they go with women who will leave them for someone else that's more successful. And the reason that is because they chose that woman. So then when that woman devalues them for someone else, then they're back down to feeling like they're worthless. When it's like the problem was not that woman choosing someone else over you because they were more successful. The problem was you for choosing her. And, you know, also the approach. Because personally, with experience with men of this mindset, it's like, personally to me, it's very uncomfortable when a person does not seem like they have, like they understand that they themselves, their personality, their attractiveness, emotionally and physically, you know, is more important than what they've done in their life because that is all superficial, to me at least. Your personality stays with you from birth to death. Your money can go away at any point. So, personally, it's just like, to me, it seems like such a shallow person when someone can't value themselves enough to basically, when they're meeting someone, meaning a woman, and all they have is finances, it's gonna just seem like, well, you're just a waste of space, basically, in my opinion at least, because you're not an actual, you're not exactly valuable as a person yourself. You're valuable out of your success. Well, like I said, that's not really valuable to me. I don't know. To me, I mean, like, I would think if they wanted someone to actually love them for who they were, they would have to have a very compatible personality. And they would have to go after people who would actually want them for their personality. The thing is, they don't think that they have a good personality enough to attract anyone. They don't think that they're attractive enough in any way to attract women. So then that's why they go with the idea of hypergamy, because hypergamy is, like I said, anyone can get success. Therefore, it's an easier way to get a woman without fixing whatever is wrong with you that you don't realize the person and the personality that you are is actually valuable, and you can actually find a match that is compatible with you, that would value the person that you actually are and love who you actually are. And that goes back down to having a low self-esteem, not loving yourself. And I mean, like, if you can't love yourself, then you can't get actually love from anyone because you don't love yourself. So that, to me, is a major reason why red pill men love hypergamous women, and they complain about hypergamous women, but you know, it's because like I said, these people won't honestly, like them for them because they sought after someone who doesn't actually love them for them because they didn't think anyone could love them. Obviously, that kind of person shouldn't be even searching for a relationship until they fix their own personal problems there. Also, some other things I wanted to touch upon. After talking to, I go on the red pill side of things sometimes, and I was on a couple red pill platforms, watching a few different videos there. Anyway, the other thing is, like I said, about the whole part of how they assume all women are bandacious because they went with women, like I said, that weren't good for them. They went into relationships that weren't good for them. They didn't care that the woman was lying. They didn't care that the woman was cheating. They were so desperate for love, they accepted it anyway until they couldn't anymore and the relationship blew up. Then they blamed the woman for being a person they could not trust or a woman that slept around and cheated on them. When it's like, she didn't hold a gun to your head and tell you that you're going to go in a relationship with her. She didn't make you go in a relationship with her. You chose this yourself. You're a grown man. You can choose who you get in a relationship with. You chose poorly. And therefore, you have to blame yourself for what you've gotten yourself into. Like I said, at 20, when I was 20 years old, I heard from people. They weren't, it really doesn't matter what their gender was, but I've talked about who I talked to about relationships and who was desperate. Anyway, they would tell me why they were desperate was because they were desperate for love. And so to me, it's just like you should look within yourself and try and figure out why are you desperate for love at the end of the day. That's your problem. Is why are you desperate? Most people who go into bad relationships, they had a hand in it because they entered the relationship willingly by their own consent. Unless they were kids, they went into this willingly and they knew what they were getting into, subconsciously or consciously. So if they knew what they were getting into, then I mean, you can't really blame anyone for going through a bad relationship and having heartache. That's just what you consented to. It's like often it seems like red pill men don't have any responsibility, honestly. And I will not say that it's just red pill men. I'm saying honestly, there are women who had the same problem. They blame the man when it's like you went in this relationship with the man, just like the man went in the relationship with you. So if anything goes wrong, you're both to blame. And this goes into how these men never understand how to attract anyone outside of, women who are hypergamous or women who are just looking for money and things of that nature, which I have nothing against them doing. To me, I'm like, if you were in a relationship with her, you allowed that for yourself. And it seems like you subconsciously like it, but you just don't really like that you like it, or something's going on. Like I said, it's more to do with low self esteem. And she can't help that you have a low self esteem. That's your problem. But it's like, they actually, like we are also, to me, a big problem in this whole theory of red pill and, hypergamy with women and thinking all women are hypergamous is they have this idea that we're all in the 1800s or something. Like, I never understand why they act like a woman looks for a man to be a provider and to give her the lifestyle, that she wants or something. In this society, women and men can be successful. So I don't understand what you're talking about with finances. To me, it's weird. Honestly, I think of the job I'm doing right now, and I honestly think if I was a guy, I don't know, financially, would that really be that successful? Not really, being completely honest. And I mean, I think many of the jobs that I've had in the past would not be successful as men. Many of the time, people don't trust men as much as they trust women. Therefore, sometimes you get more financial gain out of people that you trust, I mean, that trust you, rather than, as men. And so to me, I just think it's kind of, weird that people act like, we're still in the 1800s and women can't provide for themselves. We don't have jobs of our own that are lucrative. You know, um, we don't have success. We don't go to college, I guess. We don't get bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees. We don't get any of that. We're just waiting for a man so then he can provide for us. And it's just weird to me, that whole mentality. It's like, what time machine did you come from? because I mean, like, a lot has happened since the 1800s, and we're not, women aren't just made basically to find a man so he can provide for us. I mean, a woman can want that, just like a man could want that too, you know. There are plenty of men who are looking for women who have money too. People look for people to have money and basically use them for money. So, I mean, like, I don't really understand how that has to do with women. It's just weird to me that some people would think that would have to do with specifically women. And it really just has to do with some people look for people who have money, and then some people have low self esteem and a lot of money. Therefore, the two go hand in hand, and women and men with a lot of money have men and women who don't have a lot of money and use them off of their money. It's just what it is. Men, oh, I didn't see you, Brilliance. I'm sorry. I love the women's sometimes. Okay. And men like to conquer things, that's why. Yeah, I do. I agree with that. That is definitely true there. Because I think often people, like men who are into hypergamous women, they want to impress them. And it's harder to impress them than impressing a woman who is actually just genuinely into their personality and seeing if they're a good fit. You know, some of us don't care about economics. We really don't, but we actually just care about their personality. And that can be flat to some people because they have more to prove. Like I said, with those situations, if you feel, your personality isn't enough, you will want to go after the one who is harder to impress by having success than the person who is not. So that's why they go down that pipeline, basically, where they feel basically not content, basically, with hypergamous women because they feel like they'll leave them for someone more successful, but this is what you chose, you know? So that's all I have to say on that. Hi, Rex Rogers, by the way. Oh, I also wanted to say this is in no way or shape or form of me attacking hypergamous women or red pill men. Me, I think there's a man out there meant for hypergamous men and hypergamous women. I said what I said. Hypergamous men exist too, by the way. And hypergamous, and there's a woman out there obviously for hypergamous men. Point. Anyways, but I think there's man and woman out there for those people. And I think there's a man and a woman, or a woman, well, actually just a woman in this case, red pill. There's a woman out there for red pill men as well. So I'm not saying that they should just die alone or anything. I think everybody has a match with somebody. We have too many people in this world to not have matches, honestly. So that's how I feel about that situation. I personally don't feel like, hypergamy is for me, and I personally don't feel red pill men are for me either. Personally, I don't think I'm good for them either. Many of the time they have like a traditional sense of ideas, gender roles, and all that stuff. Personally, I'm not one of those people that think of situations like that. I mean, I'm not into men for traditional shit. I really am not. Sorry, but I'm just not. But yeah. Um I do feel though that, the frustration that red pill men have is exactly the same as what they say some women have the problem with. Like they'll say Like, no woman is basically not, is basically alone. Like, she doesn't have any men going after her, basically. And it's like, from my perspective, the way I see that is they will say that those people just want a specific type of man. They call them chads or whatever. And to me, the way I see it is their frustration and their problem is the fact that they don't have and they don't get the woman that they want all the time. And that's their frustration. That's their problem. It's not getting the type of woman they want. Not that, you know, they can't get a woman. They can get a woman. They just can't get that hypergamous woman. And that's what irks them. And so that's basically what I have to say on that. I feel like in ending this, a lot of the time with Red Pill, they complain about women, like I said in that example, and then they show the same symptoms themselves in the sense where they're acting like they only want this type of woman and then claim all women are this way and it's a problem and a hard issue that they're coming across finding a woman when it's like you're not having an issue finding a woman, you're just having an issue, you know, finding this type of woman. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that. Rex Rogers, LOL, Red Pill like to complain in general. Red Pill men. Yeah, I agree. They like to, I think they like to complain, like I said, because they can't get specifically what they want rather than what women are available to them. Copper pill? That sounds interesting, Brilliance. I know that sounds like a joke. I see you're laughing. But yeah, thanks for listening. That's all I have to say on that. All right, bye.